Hey everyone, I'm here with Kellie, and today we're going to talk about Nashville because I just got back from Nashville, and I just thought, it'd be a great subject to talk about because I've never been there before, and I was telling Kellie how much fun I had, so I thought, there's just like this thriving music scene going on, and I just wanted to, tell everybody about it. So here we are.
And I wanted to hear about it.
Yeah,
We were communicating while you were there, back
right,
and forth, email and text, and like, I
right.
can't wait to hear about all the details when you get back. So the first thing that I think the audience might like to know is what took you to Nashville? Why did you go there? How
Oh,
did that
yeah.
happen?
Good question. Well, gosh, during the pandemic, I had done a recording session with a friend of mine named Crosby Tyler, who's an Americana artist. We actually knew each other a long time ago, but he was putting this album together and he recorded, even though he lives outside of Nashville, he decided to record it in LA because he knows a lot of good musicians here. And we had some great musicians like Aubrey Richmond. Remember, we had her on the
Mm-hmm.
podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and she tours with Duff McKagan. Is it McKagan or McKagan? I always mess that up.
Kagan.
Oh, sorry, Duff McKagan. And then Shooter Jennings, which is Waylon Jennings' son. And she's real.
If you like our videos, go ahead and click on like and subscribe. We really appreciate it.
Jennings'
Thanks.
son, and she's real big in that scene. And she's a really good fiddle player, and she's a really good singer. So anyway, he was telling me about Aubrey, and he's like, I want to hear you guys together. So we sang and we did the album, and then he's really promoting it a lot. So he said, why don't you come down to Nashville and we'll do like this little mini tour. So I've never been there. So I really thought I want to check it out because I know a lot of my friends have moved there. Like Paul Taylor, he's moved there and he's carved out a real songwriting career.
He was the
And
one in Winger, right?
he was in Winger, and then he's also toured with Alice Cooper and I believe Journey. He was the
Oh,
keyboardist for
wow.
them.
I didn't know he did all that. Yeah.
Yeah, more
Okay.
recently than Winger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Winger is actually doing some reunion tours on cruises and things, right?
Fun.
And our good friend Mark Ferrari has been on, I think, cruises with them. And so so anyway, I knew Paul was there, and then a couple of my other friends, this guy Mike Khalil, who I actually hired for a song I wrote to do pedal steel guitar on, and he's going back and forth because there's so much work there. And one of my biggest surprises was that it's not just country music. It's like everything. There's this part of Nashville called Whiskey Row, which is like the Sunset Strip of Nashville, and
Huh?
all the clubs are there. But Kellie, it's like, oh my gosh, you can't even. It was November and it felt like New Year's Eve in Las Vegas. I mean, that's how crowded it is.
Wow.
So
And
and
at night, didn't you say
yeah.
something about like they have music all day too, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I finished. We had some gigs there on Whiskey Row, and we would finish by 8, 9 o'clock. And so Crosby took me to a couple of places. There's this place called Robert's Western World, which is, I've been told, if you're the real hot band on Whiskey Row, you play there. So the gigs that go on there from like 6 to I think 2, 3 in the morning. I'm not really sure, but they go on really late. So this is a funny story. So then there's this Taco Bell that's right along the Whiskey Row. And so he was like, you got to check out this Taco Bell because there's talent. There's people playing there too. Right. So we go to Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
It's
Wow.
like there's a stage with a guy and a girl, and they're just using their
Oh,
iPads or iPhones or whatever. And they do like a 2-hour set. And then they swap people out every like 2 hours. And then they,
uh-huh.
I don't know how much they get paid. I think they get an hourly, and then like people give them tips. So they're making, maybe $50, $100 an hour working at Taco Bell.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
if you're a musician and you need money, it's a good place to go. But the other thing that really surprised me was walking down Whiskey Row and you hear people doing Adele, a lot of rock too. I was surprised, people are doing
Yeah.
rock covers, and so off the beaten path, which is where we performed too. There's a place called Tennessee Brews where we performed, and that's, you can be a little more experimental if you have new original music. You don't have to do covers. You can kind of mix the two. But there's this the group that I was telling you about before that I'd love for them to be on our podcast, which is Kellie's Heroes, same like you, but spelled a little differently. They call themselves Power Country, and they're like, just, there's a stand-up bass, and they're like, the bass player is the lead singer, and he's just like, just twirling the bass and jumping all over,
wow.
So they've got a lot of energy, and so they're really good. And yeah, and it was just a really good time. Now, we started off the tour actually not in Nashville. We were in a place called Johnson City, and then we went to a place called Bristol, which Bristol is the self-proclaimed start of country music. They call it the beginnings of country music, because the June Carter Cash family, she was from around that area, so they did some recordings there. Johnny Cash's wife, and they have a hotel, which is really beautiful, called Sessions, which I was at the hotel, and I took some pictures of it, and it's all kind of restored to look a certain time period, but it's all like brand new looking, And so there's a place called it's the Carter family home that I might try to sing at some point, because the girl that saw us performing when we were in Bristol said, "Oh, you would do really well at this foundation that they have. It's like a home that's been restored of the June Carter Cash family." If I'm saying her name right, but it's their home, and people do events there, and they have music there every weekend.
Wow.
So that was really cool. But Bristol, I was really impressed. It's like a little miniature Nashville, not half as crazy and very small, but there's like all this historical stuff on the walls of all the people that have performed there. And then they have a theater on the main road there, which like it's a mid-sized theater, like kind of like the Wiltern in LA, where like people like Lindsey Buckingham and people like that were playing that week. So I really, really liked Bristol a lot. And so then we opened there, went to Nashville, and Nashville is just way more crazier.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So did you ever watch the show Nashville?
No, when you told, I know, I feel so
it was
bad.
good. It was so good. I was just wondering, so the Bluebird Cafe is where everybody always played. Is the Bluebird Cafe really real?
I didn't go to the Bluebird Cafe, but I'll look it up, because no one told me about it. So I don't know.
I was just wondering if it was still there or was real ever.
Yeah. Is it a real place? I don't know. No one told me about it.
I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in watching videos on YouTube, I think I saw Steven Tyler showed up there once. And then he was also on Nashville. He sang,
he did?
I think it was a Patsy Cline song.
Crazy.
He sang that with Hayden Panettiere. And anybody that's watching this, if you go to YouTube and you look up that scene and them singing that song, I get goosebumps. It was really
I gotta check it out.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
very cool to see.
I could see him doing a good job on that song.
Yeah, it was really good.
But yeah, they do a lot of, like I said, there's more rock going on Whiskey Row than I thought. Because everyone always thinks, it's just country, but a lot of people.
How is it different than the LA? So we were fortunate to, everybody still listens to rock. The 80s and 90s rock were so popular, and everybody still listens to it. I'm here in Wyoming, and we've got country stations and classic rock. Everybody loves rock and roll. So how is it different in Nashville compared to the rock scene in Los Angeles?
Well, I would say country music or Americana or a little bit of blues is definitely prevalent, but like when at Margaritaville, where we were going to do a gig at, there was another room where this duo was playing, and they were doing covers, and they were doing Tom Petty, Fleetwood Mac, so they were doing classic, I guess, rock, from a certain era. And I always say that, like, rock music will never die. I mean, The Who had that song, rock and roll will never die. Long live rock. But it's true, because, even in movies, that's the stuff that you always hear, soundtracks, it's rock music or, from 80s, 90s.
It's a special time in music history. I feel like I feel so blessed to have been around the scene, Sunset Strip and Hollywood during that time with all just music that, and I don't know if it's just,
Really nostalgic.
my generation thinking that my generation's music was better than all the other music. But yeah, just so many, the ballads, and then the fun rock songs that, make you happy. And
well, and I always say that, I haven't spent a lot of time in middle America because, I'm from Los Angeles, but I could see like going in Bristol, the town I was telling you about, there was a record store that we did a little promo in. We sang at this record store, and it was all classic rock stuff there, from Kiss to Aerosmith, so I think even when you go outside of the big cities like LA and New York, that's where the rock music really thrives too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that Bristol, this town I'm telling you about, which is about 4 hours outside of Nashville, is, a quintessential American town in that way. They love rock music, but they're known for their country music. So, and it's all music. I'm one of those people that I love
country. I like country rock, and
that's true.
Country
I do
is
too.
also very moving, catchy. Sometimes make you sad, sometimes make you happy. So I think they're kind of related.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Brushing off of each other.
And a lot of artists started off in country, like Taylor Swift. And then they kind of when you become a hit, you just automatically cross over, Shania Twain and all those people all started in country music,
And Dolly Parton. She's
Dolly
country,
Parton. And she just got in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is kind of funny, Well,
she turned it down initially.
I know.
I don't know if she stuck to her guns and turned it down completely, but she's like, I don't feel like I belong in there because I'm country.
No, she was there. She accepted her award, and she said, I didn't see them yet, but she wrote a song, and I think she said she's doing a rock album because she feels like I won this. She said her husband has always been a big rock fan, so she was like, I'm doing a album of rock music. And my friends that were there said that the song was really good, but I haven't heard it yet. So, but
that'll be neat to see.
Yeah.
On a side note, my friend Suzette, who Suzette Andres, was in Precious Metal, and now she does a cover band called Wildside. She just told me that her band Precious Metal from the 80s is being inducted into the New England Hall of Fame.
Wow,
Rock Hall of Fame.
That's great.
Yeah. They were they were an all-girl band, Precious Metal, and I guess anyway, I can't remember everything she told me, but I thought that was exciting too.
Well, they're good for her. Yeah, maybe we should have her on the pod. She's a drummer, right?
Yeah.
We should. I love female drummers.
I asked her. I said, can we do the podcast with you? And she goes, well, I don't know. Something interesting to say. She does.
Yeah,
she just doesn't realize it. Being a female drummer and her experiences in the 80s to now, she's still
doing it. Tribute. It's a tribute act to Fleetwood Mac,
it's a cover
right?
band. Yeah, they do.
Right.
No, they do covers.
I thought they just did Fleetwood Mac, but no.
No, I think maybe there was a time when they were doing something like that too. But and she's multi-talented because to drum, she sings. She's like their singer and drummer, and to drum and sing at the same time is really hard.
It's hard. Oh yeah, because you got so much energy. I always wonder, like Don.
Yeah, you're exhausted just from you're doing aerobics basically.
Yeah.
And then singing.
The one thing I was going to tell you was I got to play my mandolin.
Let me see.
See my little mandolin. This is a gift from my father, but I actually I got to play with Crosby because he had a song that he wanted me to play the mandolin on. So
do you have any clips that we can include in our video?
I believe so. I'm trying to get that together as as soon as we're done, I'm going to get them together.
Hopefully we can include that in here.
Yeah, the audio wasn't that great because I didn't have a personal, videographer with me. So I was like, my next tour,
bring your crew.
Yeah, I got to bring
entourage.
A crew. Yeah, because
Can I be a part of it?
What's that?
Can I be a part of your entourage? I'll do your hair and makeup.
Yeah, that's so funny because my friend Joan was like, Joan, she was like, can I be your wardrobe mistress? I said, you already are, because before I left, she was like, she has all this country stuff and she was like, take this. But and it's hard going on the road when you have a limited, when you're not traveling in a big luxurious bus. We got a really beautiful apartment in in Nashville. There was a corporate apartment that we had, and that was really nice. But you have to utilize your wardrobe the best you can. So I was watching this video with Dolly Parton where she said when she first started, she was on this tour bus, and she had like these wigs, and she had her little outfits, and she would recycle them the whole week, and she'd wash them in the sink and then try them out.
Oh.
So I was like, she really worked hard when she first started,
Yeah.
So I admire her, Dolly. I just think she's really, I just like
she's
her.
amazing and different from the music, but Jeff Bezos just gave her $100
I
million
know.
to,
For charity.
use for charity. And I thought that was good of him.
Yeah. He said he wants to give away most of his money, I guess, lifetime, which is good. Kellie and Kimbra could use some for the podcast.
There you go. To me, anyway, that's a
whole other thing, right?
But I wish they would do something more than just charity with it. Something that makes the money make the money. And down, I don't know. Anyway, so that it goes on last.
Yeah, it's hard because his wife, his first wife, Melissa, was that her name? Melissa?
I don't remember her
Meredith?
name, but she's given away a lot of her money.
Yeah, she gave to Cal State Fullerton, where I went to school. She anonymously donated most of her divorce settlement, right? And then she didn't want to tell anybody, but someone dug it up, they wanted to know, right? And she gave it to all the universities, a lot of them in Southern California, and underrepresented or something, Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was cool. That was cool.
I don't think it was her divorce settlement, but she earned it too.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So it wasn't like she was just the
that's true. So I didn't mean
a bunch of money from a divorce.
Right. I didn't mean to imply that she didn't work because I know she.
That's why I know you didn't. I just wanted to clarify that,
right.
So she gets credit because she helped create Amazon too.
Oh yeah, I'm always talking about that. The woman. It's just ridiculous how some back. That's a whole other thing, so we won't get into it. But
I know.
we go on these tangents, but but yeah. So getting back to Nashville, it's a great scene, and I want to go back. I made a lot of contacts that I will be pursuing so that I can go back on my own because Crosby kind of knew that area, and I didn't. So so that's it.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, and I can't wait to see. You sent me a few pictures, but I want to see all of them, and I hope I can see some video and get a feel for it, and we can share it with everybody in our video.
And we might have some acts that I've invited to possibly do another one if they come back, if they get on our podcast.
Well, one more thing that I wanted to bring up that might be of interest to somebody watching this video is, didn't you say that you could actually make a living without being a famous musician in Nashville because they pay their musicians, whereas in Los Angeles, sometimes you have to pay the venue to play?
Well, in Los Angeles, I feel and maybe it's like this in New York too, but if you're famous, it's golden, right? You can play wherever you want. If you're not known and you're just, struggling musician, or, you got a medium, level musician, medium success, I should say, you're probably not going to make very much money performing in Los Angeles. It's just really hard. In Nashville, like I was saying, you could play every night if you want. You can do covers if you want to. There's so many musicians you can work for. You can do demos. Like I was telling about the Taco Bell thing, those people, they're making maybe a couple $100 a night, possibly doing it. Because the people, I feel like in Nashville, people are very appreciative of music because they just love it. It's like in Bristol, that town we were playing, we got these paying gigs that in this small town where, we didn't really have a large following there. So maybe 30, 40 people were at some of these gigs, but they still paid us pretty substantially, And so that was, you don't get that in LA that much,
Yeah, I wonder what the difference is. I mean, I remember working at the Troubadour, which is, everybody's, the old rock people have played there. And, then we had the up and comers, and we always would require them to sell tickets. They had to sell so many tickets. Otherwise, it wasn't worth our time because nobody would show up. And so it's such a catch-22 where, you have this band, they're going to play, and then it's just for the employees. So how do you, and I think LA is just so saturated and everybody's so jaded. I mean,
I think they're a little more jaded, and it's a little more high rent district, so they're a little bit more. But I mean, Nashville is too. But that's part of their tourism, though. The attraction is the music. So when you go to Nashville, you're going to see new music. It's too bad LA doesn't, because we're so known for rock, and it's too bad we can't get that scene going a little bit more, where same kind of thing, like maybe some rock bands are playing, but all the musicians get so jaded because they don't want to have to work so hard to sell their tickets. Like I said, when we were in Bristol, we had like 30 people that were just there anyway. It wasn't because of us.
People appreciated the music.
Yeah. And it's part of their culture there out in Nashville and the surrounding towns. It's their culture of they appreciate, like I said, because country music supposedly started in that area. It's part of their heritage, and the blues and all that, so.
Trucker on the road, choo-choo Tennessee, bright lights, Kansas City, and
So and Chicago's a little bit like that too. Chicago, when I went to Chicago, but they're more into jazz and blues, but it's a music town, boy. You go to the airport, there's there's people playing music in the airport, and it's just really LA. I guess we're just so jaded.
Are there any do famous musicians come and play in Nashville?
In Nashville?
In those little
I'm
clubs?
sure they do, but I didn't see anybody pop up.
Like I said, Steven Tyler, supposedly, I came across a video on YouTube with him. I think it was the Bluebird Cafe.
Okay, I have to look that up, because like I said, no one told me about that cafe, and I don't know.
I should have
God,
mentioned
I'll feel really dumb if it's like really famous, and they're like, "What do you mean the Bluebird?" But a lot of people have hotels and clubs right on Whiskey Row, like Kid Rock, Shania Twain, Dolly Parton, I'm sure has something. They all do, and Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett, that's a chain, but they all have these clubs that are named after them, right on the row. So what's his name? Glen Campbell, he has a museum / club right there. And Johnny Cash had something right down the street from where we were, like a museum. And so it's all those kind of things, So it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember in LA being out, and I remember at the Viper Room, Steven Tyler showed up and sang there, and I was like 10 feet away from the stage, which the stage is only about a foot high or 2 feet high, so you're right at eye level with them. And who else? Duffy and Duff McKagan showed up and played. Then being at Spice, Jon Bon Jovi showed up and played, and Sam Kinison was there, and Billy Idol got up and sang, and like you just get so spoiled that after that, I remember going to concerts, and you and I have gone to concerts. We always get backstage passes because we know that one of us knows the musicians, and you just get spoiled. Where like I can't go to a concert where I'm in the audience,
right.
And you're watching them on a TV or something. So I don't know if that's what happens to people in LA. They just don't appreciate even new music.
That's true. That's true.
Because you get so spoiled seeing all the big names.
Yeah, that's true. Like when you go to these smaller, not towns, but the outside of LA or New York, but even New York, I think has those clubs, but I don't know if people are making any money. You would probably know better than I about those clubs in New York, where some of the bands would play. I don't know. Were you into music when you lived in New York? Were you going out?
The more I went to the China Club. I used to go to the China Club, and they'd always have live music. And I remember Nile Rodgers was a big producer of music, and he would always buy me and my friend drinks. And we'd always see Julian Lennon there. And it was very small club. And that's the only real music club. The rest of them were like dance clubs, like the Palladium and Heartbreak and those places. But I think in LA, it was just so easy. I think even with comedy, I think we've talked about comedy too. In the Comedy Store, I remember one time Richard Pryor showed up and did his routine, and then Andrew Dice Clay did a routine. And I think maybe they come to LA because there's so many famous people and everybody's so jaded, they don't fawn over them. They're treated normal. So maybe that's why they feel more comfortable. And then of course the people that live there, you're living amongst a bunch of famous people, so it's not such a big deal. to see them. I don't know.
It's funny. I met a lot of up and coming younger musicians in their late teens when I was in Johnson City when I first got there, and they participated in this music video that Crosby was doing, and they were all asking me about LA. Should I come? Should I come? And I wanted to say, oh gosh, really, it's like we talked about with Happen and Harry.
I was just going to say, our friend Heaven and Harry would say, if you come, you have 6 months, and then you have to go home, pack it up and go home.
Right.
So because LA's tough. Again, because there's so much competition and there's so many famous musicians already there, but that's where they made it. That's where most of them made it. You hear the stories of, didn't Poison live upstairs at the Troubadour at one point or something?
I think it was Motley Crue. I think it was
maybe Motley Crue. I can't remember who. I should know that because I worked there. And just the stories, the funny, I don't know, just.
Hey, if you're willing to rough it long enough, I guess, like you and I have talked about this, it's like, I don't really like roughing it. And so
yeah, we're not good at roughing it. Still, it's the experience of it too. And what you get out of it, even if you don't stay permanently.
Right.
I always look at things, some people say, well, I don't want to be a failure. You're never a failure. It's an experience. You absorb the experience and then move on. If it didn't work for you, there's something better or something else. You can't look at it as a failure.
It's a life experience.
It's an experience. And so I always say the more experiences you have, the more different places you get the opportunity to live, makes your life just more full.
Yeah. I mean, like, even for me, like I said, I've never actually been to the South. This was my first time going to the South. And I was like, it just was such a great experience. There's something about going into a different, like, kind of cultural atmosphere that you're not used to. Oh, and that's another funny thing. One of the recording studios that I was in Bristol, which the guy was really nice. I'll try to write it down below because he was a really good recording engineer that we worked with a little bit when we were there. But he was like, because I was telling how a lot of my friends, said, oh, I don't have anything in common with those people, in the South, and he was like, you tell them that we're not all like that, and he was like, because, music people are generally speaking very liberal anyway. So it's hard, but.
Well, in a country this vast, it's so funny because New York is a very different vibe.
Right.
I really liked New York. I just couldn't stay there for the winter. In fact,
I love New
I'd
York.
have stayed there. I remember I went to visit my friend, not planning on moving to New York by any means. I had just gotten divorced and I was just going to go visit her for a while. And I remember being on Broadway and I hadn't even dabbled in acting at all yet.
Mm.
And we went to see a play on Broadway and I don't know what happened. I was like, I love this place. Just the feel, the feel of it, the energy.
Yeah. The energy.
So much energy. And I loved New York City.
I know. I love it too. I used to go periodically with my boyfriend who was from Midtown, and so we would stay at his place, and he'd take me to Murray Hill because his grandparents lived there, and he was a real New Yorker, third generation, and I was always like, God, this is great. But then he took me on the subway and I was like, ew, I don't know why I don't like the subway.
First time seeing it, I didn't want to touch anything. I was
right.
Like, people have sat on that. And it looked so dirty. And then after being a while there,
then you get used to it, right?
Trash everywhere too. There's just trash cans all over the place. But you just become accustomed and you get used to what streets to go down and what streets.
Yeah. I know. I love New York. I
great.
just had dinner with a close friend of mine. And last night I was in Nashville. I had dinner with the girl that I used to do, one of the girls I used to do the USO stuff with. And she was like, have you ever thought about living in New York? And I was like, yeah, but gosh, I always felt like I had to be like, really Jackie O style or forget it, And
it's in the winters are harsh. I mean, really hard. Even if you have money, because you have to have a lot of money because you literally have to have a chauffeur pick you up at the door and drop you off at the door.
Right.
Because even people, it costs as much to park your car as it does for an apartment.
Sure.
There's no place to park. There's no.
So you don't really need a car, or if you do, you got
real quick and real funny.
Sure.
I used to babysit this very wealthy guy's kid. Mm-hmm. And he'd give me his Mercedes to drive him around in the day. Mm-hmm. I drove in New York City. I look back at that. I'm like, how did I drive in New York? It's crazy. I mean, it's all cabs and you're like inches away from other cars.
Well, you had a lot of nerve, huh?
I guess because I don't think I could do that. If somebody handed me keys right now, I'd be like, no, I don't think so.
I know.
And I never got in any accidents. I was very proud of that.
That happened to me when I actually was in Italy. I got picked. I was in Rome, and the guy had a Mercedes. He was like, "Do you want to drive?" And they have those roundabout things, and everybody's going so fast, like this, And I was like, "Forget it. No, I don't want to drive."
Yeah, it's scary. I really don't know how I had the nerve to do that, but
yeah, it's funny. But yeah, so New York is great, and I love New York, and it's all, because it's so much culture. But Nashville is great because it has a different vibe, and people are a little more. I guess I'd say they're a little more respectful to you. I mean, at least the ones that I met, they're very, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir.
Wow. They're
very polite.
Southern, ways.
So I really had a good time. I actually
You want to go back?
I do want to go back.
Yeah.
I want to go back. I want to tour Nashville maybe on my own as my own music. And then also I'd love to go to Austin. I want to check out Austin because there's a lot of good music going on in Austin too. But also a friend of mine lives in Asheville, North Carolina, and I might try to do like an Asheville, North Carolina, go back to Nashville type thing, So my Southern tour,
Kimbra on tour.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
I love it. I'm so excited for you. I think that's awesome.
And like just going away and seeing other places, whether it's in the United States or abroad or wherever.
Traveled, abroad too.
But just seeing
USO.
Yeah, but I would love. I'm glad I went to. That was like I said, my first time in the South. The most southern state I've ever been is Texas, and I know that nobody considers them Southern. They don't consider themselves Southern, but they don't. I guess they don't. They, and Austin's a very not typical of
rest of Texas.
Yeah, and that's where I was. So I'm glad I went to Tennessee. I would like to go, like I said, North Carolina. Maybe I might go to the South, not the South, but the Florida part that's real Southern, down there by I think it's Tallahassee. They have a thriving music scene down there too, So there's just so many parts of the United States that you can explore that get out of your little bubble,
Yeah, because you've lived in LA your whole life, that Southern California, and I lived in Southern California most of my adult life. And then when here I am in a little town in Wyoming called Rock Springs, and we have a very healthy music scene.
Yeah, that's right. Scene. That's right. You were saying
calories. And so, when you start that's what people here are always, not always, but most people here, they like it because of the outdoor activities, all of the climbing and whatever they do. And I'm the only person I know that always says, well, I like it because of the culture, the art, the music. People are very entrepreneurial here. I belong to 2 women's entrepreneurial groups. And so
you fit right in because you're very entrepreneurial.
Well, that's what I like. And that's why I really felt at home here. And I really enjoy it. I really like it. I like the people. So when you move around the country, I almost wish I could every year move to someplace new and but it's big. You can't. It's
hard. It takes a time and money, right?
Move around and you see all the different cultures and different. We're all the same, but still there's differences. And all the rich artistic talent and creativity.
I'd like to spend a little time in New England too. I've never really been to New England, and my stepfather's from Vermont, so it's a different, kind of lifestyle there too. But yeah. So anyway. Nashville's great. You should visit it. And we're going to be posting some videos, some pictures, and, Nashville Part 2 next year, right?
Thanks for sharing. I'm glad. I felt like I went with you a little bit because you were talking back and forth while you were there and got to hear about it. But I'm glad I got to hear everything now. So thanks.
Yeah, it's a great music town, and everyone should experience it that loves music. And like I said, not just country music, it's everything.
Yay.
Okay, so we'll see you next time, right?
Yeah. And anyone, if you've gone to Nashville yourself, share your story with us and let us know what you think of
what you think. What do you think? Yeah. What was your impression? What is your impression? What did you like about it?
Yeah.
So.
Yay. Yeah.
All right.
Share.
Okay. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.